Doamnă doctor, am început cu toții noul an 2019, un an de trei, un an de acțiune. Ce proiecte aveți legate de sănătate?
Foarte multe proiecte. În primul rând, consultăm în Pitești, știți, în Clinica Medicală Aura Vita, dar și în Sibiu, săptămânal. Și acest lucru s-a întâmplat în 2018 și în 2019 ne-am propus să mergem, am început în 2018, dar vom continua în 2019, vom merge la Iași la 3 luni și din 3 în 3 luni și chiar săptămâna viitoare, pe data de 11 februarie, o să consultăm în Iași, așa că invit pe toți pacienții, viitorii mei pacienți care vor să facă și să vină la o consultație în medicină holistică să ne sune pentru a fi consultați la Iași. Și de asemenea mai avem o noutate în 2019, consultăm mai nou în București.
Practic în toate zonele țării. De ce București?
Am răspuns la invitația fiicei mele, Oana Stoianovici, trainer spiritual de cursuri de feminitate și de copil interior, și vom lucra împreună pentru a vindeca traumele sufletești într-un mod natural, holistic. Traumele sufletești sunt greu de vindecat, știți acest lucru, am avut foarte multe emisiuni, sunt foarte mulți pacienți care au traume sufletești, aproape fiecare, unii au și 2-3 traume sufletești, iar rezolvarea lor este o adevărată provocare pentru un medic holistic. Acest proiect nou de integrare a medicinii holistice în alt context lărgit social are legătură de fapt cu următorul meu nivel de dezvoltare spirituală, dacă mă întrebați în plan personal acum. Sunt în al 7-lea ciclu de 9 ani, cel spiritual, de evoluție spirituală, și care automat de 2 ani generează conferințe, deci de medicină holistică care o să urmeze și cursuri online de medicină holistică pe care intenționez să le am și, bineînțeles, prima mea carte despre sănătate și despre dezvoltare spirituală care va fi gata în curând.
Doamne doctor, aveți într-adevăr un proiect complet. Cum ați reușit?
Am lucrat cu intenție, dar cred că în România, în momentul acesta, adică este și momentul, vreau să spun, pentru că în România, în momentul acesta, există un potențial foarte mare de medici și de terapeuți și de pacienți care rezonează cu metoda holistică, ca să vorbesc în termeni de rezonanță. Este necesar doar să experimenteze și am constatat acest lucru pentru că suntem foarte vizualizați, știți. Sunt foarte multe persoane, aproape 10.000 de persoane, 8.000, 9.000, 10.000 de persoane care sunt deja abonate la noi. Sunt foarte mulți medici care ne urmăresc, dar care nu îndrăznesc cumva să facă pasul. Această metodă pe care o voi promova, și anume să țin cursuri online, o să dea posibilitatea de confidențialitate, adică să nu apară acolo numele persoanelor, dar totuși să participe la aceste cursuri care le vor deschide cumva orizontul și calea către medicina holistică pentru fiecare medic în parte, pentru că este foarte interesant.
Medicina holistică este subtilă, nu e decât naturală. Abordarea interesantă, presupune identificarea cauzei și vindecarea ei în cele 5 corpuri.
Da, așa este. De exemplu, pentru cineva care a făcut un infart, dau un exemplu. Nu este suficient, cum făceam până acum, să-i recomand să renunțe la alimentele grase, ca să scădem nivelul de colesterol, de exemplu, și la toate celelalte recomandări, ca de exemplu mișcare ușoară, fără emoții. Dacă nu identifici la nivel sufletesc, de exemplu, cauzal, de ce anume a făcut acea persoană acel infart, pentru că el se va putea repeta. Infarctul miocardic în sine este o boală despre iubire. Cei cu infart nu sunt fericiți. Se blochează cumva arterele coronare, arterele coronare sunt proprii inimii, deci tu cumva nu te mai iubești pe tine. Deci nu mai ajunge sângele care reprezintă bucuria vieții la mușchiul cardiac.
Cum pot medicii să învețe modul, logica medicală care conduce la aflarea cauzei bolii?
Sunt cărți. Eu așa am învățat, sunt autodidactă, poți învăța deci prin proprie experiență, mie mi-a luat cam 10 ani, dar poți învăța din cursul, cum spuneam, pentru a scurta procesul. Este necesar doar să fii curios, să fii interesat de ce este nou. Și medicina holistică este o provocare, este o noutate. În primul rând vorbim de medicină cuantică, de avangardă. Un biolog, cum a fost doctorul Bruce Lipton, ați văzut, a reușit să explice practic la nivel celular, pornind de jos, despre energii și despre vibrații și cum funcționează de fapt corpul, încât a uimit lumea medicală.
Alors dans la pratique de la médecine naturelle, comme je le fais avec des éléments qui sont des éléments naturels, nous savons très bien que nous avons une action sur les cellules. Et on n'a pas encore tous les codes secrets du fonctionnement cellulaire. On fait des progrès immenses, la médecine fait des progrès en permanence et à grands pas, mais en biologie, c'est-à-dire le métabolisme fin de la cellule, on n'a pas encore tout découvert. Et donc à ce titre-là, on est toujours par curiosité en train de s'informer, de lire, de voir ce qui peut sortir comme nouvelle j'allais dire pas description ni publication, mais tout ce qui peut se faire qui va vers la recherche et l'avenir. Et à ce titre, je lis un article fort intéressant, c'était en 2009, au début de l'année, dans Le Monde, un article qui parlait de l'épigénétique. Et l'épigénétique, c'est une nouvelle science, c'est la biologie de la cellule en fonction de son environnement. Et on parlait de Bruce Lipton. Bruce Lipton, qui est un chercheur américain, qui est un biologiste, qui est chargé de cours à la faculté de médecine, et qui a eu quelques ennuis parce que ses pairs n'avaient pas au début reconnu qu'effectivement, sa façon de voir les choses dans la biologie moléculaire était d'avant-garde et que cette façon-là dérangeait un petit peu le corps médical. Et j'étais tout à fait surpris, l'année d'après, en 2010, fin 2010, de recevoir un livre de la part d'un de mes amis qui est le patron du laboratoire Phytocant, qui s'appelle Nicolas Frassanito. Il m'envoie un livre qui s'appelle La biologie des croyances et qui est écrit par Bruce Lipton. J'ai lu ce livre, bien sûr, avec beaucoup d'intérêt, et ça a été le phénomène déclencheur de la nouvelle façon de voir et de pouvoir traiter les gens. Ce qui m'a intéressé dans le livre de Bruce Lipton, c'est qu'il va expliquer avec précision et d'un point de vue scientifique quels sont les effets de l'information du cerveau sur les autres cellules. C'est de la physique quantique. L'information des cellules cérébrales va avoir une action sur les cellules du corps. Lorsque certaines cellules sont malades, cette simple information va pouvoir changer les choses et corriger dans le sens de la guérison.
45 years ago, I was cloning stem cells while I was teaching in medical school. While I was teaching the students that genes control life, the cells in my tissue culture revealed a completely different story. A stem cell is like an embryonic cell. And when I put one stem cell in a culture, it divides every 10 hours. So first there's one cell, then two, and then 4, 8, and after 2 weeks I have thousands of cells in the Petri dish. However, what's most important is all of the cells are genetically identical because they came from the same parent. The experiment I did was to take some cells out of that main dish and put it into another Petri dish. And when I put the cells into a different dish with a different environment, the cells form muscle. But I go back to the main dish and get some more of those same genetically identical cells and put it into a second Petri dish with a second environment. And this environment caused the cells to become bone. And then I went back to the same dish and took some more cells, genetically identical, and put them in a different environment, a third environment, and the cells formed fat cells. The conclusion is very straightforward and simple. All the cells were genetically identical, but the fate of the cells was determined by the environment in which the cells lived. This was completely different than the story that I was teaching in medical school. It turns out that rather than genes controlling our lives, the environment controls our lives. A very important point. If I take a dish of cells from a good environment and move it to a bad environment, the cells start to get sick and die. And you might say, you should give these cells medicine. And I say, no, to make the cells well, just take them from the bad environment, move them back into the good environment, and they instantly become well. So the whole idea is the fate of a cell is a reflection of the environment in which it lives. Well, this is about cells in tissue culture, and the question is, what about cells in a human? And the most important understanding I can say is that when we look in the mirror and see ourselves as one individual, then we're making a mistake, because actually we are made out of about 50 trillion cells. The cells are the living entity. A human, by definition, is called a community of cells. So, in truth, a human body is like a skin-covered petri dish. Inside, under my skin, 50 trillion cells growing. The growth environment, the growth medium inside my body is called blood. It's exactly the same as the growth medium that I was putting in the tissue culture. And so the relationship between the cells in a plastic dish and the cells in a skin-covered dish is exactly the same. If I change the composition of my blood, the environment, I change the fate of the cells. If I take my body from a good environment and put it into a bad environment, my cells will get sick. So rather than giving myself medicine or drugs, basically I have to see that if I take myself from the bad environment and move myself back into the good environment, I will get healthy again without the drugs. So the significant understanding is this: cells in my body are like cells in a culture dish, and the blood is the growth medium. So you say, if I change the composition of the growth medium, I change the fate of the cells. Well, this happens in the body. What happens is that there's a chemist in the body that controls the blood, the culture medium. It's called the brain. And what the brain does is it takes my beliefs, my emotions, my attitudes about life, and converts it into chemistry that it releases into the blood. So I change the culture medium in my body when I change my belief or my perception about life. And every time I see something or experience something, the chemistry of my brain is released to the cells. This is the chemistry that controls the fate and health of the cells. So a simple example: when I'm in love, I release into my blood chemicals such as dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, growth hormone. These chemicals give me pleasure of love. They give me health. This is why when people are in love, they are so healthy. But I say, if I open my eyes and see something that scares me, I don't release that chemistry, I release a totally different chemistry. When I'm afraid, I release stress hormones. And stress hormones, when they go into my culture medium called blood, change the fate of the cells. They take it from growth into a state of protection. So all of a sudden I say, how I see the world changes how my cells behave and my genetics. My health is a reflection of how I see the world. So this is why we try to encourage people to have positive thinking, good thoughts, see love in their life, because those emotions and beliefs nourish the cells and give them health. However, when I live in stress, when I live in fear, the chemistry my brain releases is chemistry that shuts down my growth. It's the chemistry that actually shuts down my immune system. And the stress hormones, when we release it in our body, actually cause us to get sick if we stay in stress too long. Nature said that the stress response should only be used for a very short time. So in the old world, if we were being chased by a lion, we would put stress hormones in our body, and this stress hormones would help us escape from the lion. But once we escape from the lion, we let go of the stress, and we go back into growth and our perception and belief about growth. So once we run away from the lion, the body then repairs itself and starts to grow again. But today's world is very different. Today's world, we live in stress 24/7, 365, meaning every day we are in stress, all day long.
Domnul Dr. Bruce Lipton este un deschizător de drumuri. El a avut curajul să aducă o altă abordare și a convins.
E bine, suntem 50 de miliarde de celule vii, o comunitate de celule.
Exact, dar trupul nostru nu este întotdeauna un mediu propice, cum explica el, pentru aceste celule. Uneori, da, dar uneori nu. depinde cum gândim și ce emoții avem. Însă putem transforma acest lucru modificând energia. Putem lucra energetic asupra psihicului uman, asupra emoțiilor și să devenim un mediu de cultură ofertant.
Ce anume a declanșat această posibilitate de abordare energetică holistică?
Descoperirile fizicii cuantice la nivel atomic, pentru că el așa a plecat de la celulă, și apoi macro, la nivelul câmpului electromagnetic pe care îl știm și cu care am lucrat, și așa au început să fie explicate științific miracolele.
Today, sometimes we see an amazing event where a person can do something that everyone says is not possible to do. A patient who has a broken back, and everyone says you'll not walk again, and then all of a sudden they start walking. People say that's a miracle, that's a miracle. And I like to say, well, we call it a miracle. But to me, a miracle is just some piece of science that we don't understand right now. So as we begin to look at the new science, especially the science of how thoughts change the world, and this is very critical because quantum physics, the new physics, emphasizes that the observer in the experiment, if I'm doing the experiment, I'm actually, through observing the experiment, changing the experiment with the way I'm thinking, the way I understand it. So it says that we can change the world through our thoughts. And before we believe that, then how would the world make these changes? And we didn't include that. Maybe we did the changes. So before it was a miracle. Today it is new science. And this makes it wonderful because if it's a miracle, then I hope it happens again. If it's science, it will happen again when I want it to happen again. So that's why I'm looking forward to the new science. A very simple truth is this. There are no two people that are biologically the same. And I say that from an observation. If I take cells out of my body and put it to anybody else's body, put my cells in their body, their immune system will reject the cells, saying, not self. If you put your cells into my body will reject the cells because the immune system says not self. So a very important question is, where is the self in the cell? Where is the personal identity? Because each one of us has a personal identity. Well, the interesting story is, on the surface of all of our cells, or almost all of our cells, there are little antennas, little protein antennas like television antennas, miniature nano antennas. And each human has a different set of antennas. And people say, well, oh, the difference between the people are the antennas on the surface of the cell. And I go, no, no, no. The antennas don't have the program in them. It's sort of when we used to have a television set with an antenna, and I say I'm watching a program on a television, you say, oh, the program is in the antenna. I say, no, no. The antenna receives the program and then sends it to the television set. A cell is like a miniature television set with an antenna. Your cells have a different set of antennas. My cells have a different set. Everyone has their own. So what the point is that the identity, in my case, Bruce, is not coming from inside the cell. It's coming from a broadcast on the outside of the cell. Go back to the television. Let's say we are watching a television and the picture tube breaks and we say, oh, the television is dead. And I say, the television is dead, but is the broadcast still there? And you say, yes, I could get another TV and plug it in and turn it on. And then when I tune it to the station, the show is back on. Well, this applies to the human cell and the human body. We are receiving a broadcast. My cells are receiving the Bruce show. And if I die, you say the Bruce's television set, the body is dead, but what about Bruce's broadcast? And I say, it's still there because the broadcast is not in the TV. And then you say, how would you know? I say, well, at a future time, another embryo will be created with the same antennas that are on my cell, and then I will be back again, but next time in a different body. Maybe in a female body, maybe in a male body, maybe in a white body, maybe in a black body. And this is what people have to recognize. The body is not who we are. We are the broadcast. So the concept of reincarnation is that a future embryo will have the same self-receptors. That's what they're called, self-receptors, which means receivers of self, these antennas on the surface of the cell. And when your antennas come on a future human, you will be back, but playing through a different television set. This is very exciting because it says we don't die, that we're immortal. But it also brings a most interesting insight into what about this life? Because I didn't believe in spirit before I knew about these antennas. And when I saw the antennas, I said, oh, I'm not in here, I'm a spirit. And I said to myself, when I first recognized there's a spirit and there's a body, I said, why have a spirit and a body? Why not just be a spirit? And I felt the answer come right from my own cells, and the answer was very simple and profound. I said, why have a spirit and a body? And the cells said to me, they said, if you're just a spirit, Bruce, what does chocolate taste like? If you're just a spirit, what does a sunset look like? If you're just a spirit, what does being in love feel like? And I said, oh my goodness, the physical body, the cells, convert this world into sensation. I can see, smell, taste, touch, feel, but that's because of the cells. And then the cells go to the nervous system sending information, and the nervous system takes that experience and turns it into vibration like a broadcast, which goes back to my spirit. So my spirit has a sensation only when I'm living in the body. So then you say, wow, and then you also understand that we are creating the life that we are doing.
Este extraordinar cât de fluent și de logic este domnul dr. Lipton.
Da, are și experiență și dovedește logic științific. Genul acesta de medici vor putea face conexiunea între medicina alopată și cea holistică.
Cum vedeți viitorul? Ce se va întâmpla?
Este foarte simplu. Cele două medicini, alopată și holistică, se vor repoziționa, vor colabora, în primul rând datorită pacienților, din ce în ce mai mulți în zona naturistă. Dar avântul cel mai mare îl va avea medicina energetică, medicina vibrațională, care este într-o curbă ascendentă. Medicii și oamenii în general vor ști să se adapteze și să lucreze, practic, din necesitate cu vibrațiile din ce în ce mai ridicate de pe Terra. Altfel, vom dispărea.
Our conventional understanding of evolution, the Darwinian version, is that there was a simple life form billions of years ago, and every time the cell divided or the organism reproduced, there were changes sometimes in the offspring. And we say, if you look at all the changes after all the reproductions over a billion years, you can see how one organism becomes another organism. Well, we now know that that's not really the whole story of evolution. One of the main stories of evolution is that organisms learn how to come together in a community, and then they create a community which becomes a new organism. And then that new organism learns how to come together with other new organisms to create a bigger community. So it's always building. Simple organisms make a community, the community becomes an organism, more of them join together, make a new organism, etc. But now we say, well, what about the human evolution? And people say, well, maybe the human body will change with computers, we'll have bigger brains and smaller bodies. I think it's kind of a joke because ever since the computer, we have smaller brains and bigger bodies, so I think that went backwards. But the whole understanding is, what is the evolution the human will face? We're not going to change our biology. The evolution we're facing is that each human is going to join up with other humans and create community to share awareness. The more people that share their consciousness, the more intelligence comes into the system. So what's evolving is not the human, it's the community of humans with a new name called humanity. So biology sees humanity as a superorganism comprised of maybe 7 billion cells, where each person is a cell in the new body. So the evolution in front of us is not to change our physical structure, but it's to change our community structure. The more we come together and cooperate, the more evolution we experience. So we're on the edge of one of the greatest evolutionary experiences on this planet. With the internet, the ability to connect all 7 billion people in the planet at one time in one body is now a reality. So we're just on the edge, and this is why we see countries falling apart, the borders changing, governments changing, economy falling apart. All the crises are saying that the old way of living as individual people competing with each other in a Darwinian war, the old Darwinian story, life is a struggle for survival with a competition for fitness, turns into a new story. Life is based on the evolution of community and cooperation and people coming together. So as we go from the old story of the competition and war, we're beginning to learn that the cooperation is the drive force of evolution. And so if we put that belief into the world and say, if we want to evolve, we must learn how to be in community. We must learn how to work together with each other. This changes the culture. So instead of the competition, we come together in harmony. And in that harmony, we can create a world that is so beautiful and so sustainable that I'm so excited that we're right on the edge of that evolution right now. Sometimes we think that human behaviors are something that we learn just from parent to child and being taught when we're very young. But research now in psychology revealed that babies, when they're born, are already fitted with behaviors to support community. Babies are already designed to be altruistic. Babies will help each other and cooperate with each other. Babies know what love is and babies know what fear is before you teach them that. Babies will actually support individuals that help each other, but a baby will not support a person who is in conflict or causing a problem. So there's a morality built into a baby, there's love built into a baby, and altruism. It's interesting because we all had that when we were born. And you say, well, what happened to it? And I say, the culture that we lived in gave us new beliefs that conflicted with those beliefs. And yet I get very excited because as we move into the future, parents are beginning to see there's a better way of life and they're teaching the children a better way. And in fact, we are allowing the children to become what they already are. Children are designed to be in love. Children are designed to create community. Children are designed to support the world around them. We don't need to teach them that. We just need to encourage them to use that and not change that beautiful behavior that we were given by God.
Viitorul omenirii în medicină va fi legat de energie și de cum vom ști să folosim energia pentru vindecare. Să nu uităm, cum spuneam, corpurile umane sunt biobaterii energetice. Suntem, cu alte cuvinte, energie. Să învățăm să o folosim.
Emisiunea a ajuns la final. Vă mulțumim foarte mult pentru atenția dumneavoastră. Holistica reprezintă o alegere în viața dumneavoastră, mai ales când vorbim despre sănătate.
Ca să fim sănătoși, trebuie să gândim, deci, holistic.